Hi, my name is Dr. John Douillard, and today I want to talk about the Ayurvedic strategy for longevity, which is called Rasayana. Rasayana is made up of two words, rasa, which has to do with essence or plasma-like substances like lymph. It's also a word used to describe emotion, and taste, which we're going to talk about in detail. And Ayana is the path or the study of. So the study of lymph and emotion and taste and plasma-like substances in the body is the study of longevity. Now what's interesting is there are four types of Rasayana. One called Ahara Rasayana, which has to do with the food that you eat. Second one is called Vihara Rasayana, which is your lifestyle. And the third is called Achara Rasayana, which is behavioral Rasayana. Your behavior can affect your longevity. And the final one we're more familiar with, is called Ashara Rasayana, which is the herbs that there are longevity herbs that boost longevity, right? So those are the four types of Rasayana. Now Rasayana has to do with therapies that have to do with building up the body, building anabolic processes in the body while decreasing catabolic processes which break the body down. So it's building up more than the body tends to break down. It happens and starts in your digestive system. The very first substance of the digestive system is called ahara rasa. And again, that's that lymph-like fluid, that nutrient fluid, the very first thing that happens in our digestive system. That ahara rasa becomes what's called rasa dhatu, which is the lymphatic fluid. That lymphatic fluid, critically important. It's the fluid that, from the Ayurvedic perspective, builds all of the rest of the tissues in the body. The rasa, if it's balanced and prepared properly, it makes blood, which then makes muscle and fat and bone and nerve and reproductive tissue. And the final process of 30 days of all this is the substance called ojas, which Ayurveda calls the physiological expression of consciousness. So subtle, but so powerful. It supports immunity and vitality and vigor and energy and radiance and really radiant health and longevity. But to make ojas depends on these rasayanas. And what's interesting is that the first three of the rasayanas seem to have a powerful impact even before you put the food in your mouth. Ahara rasayana has to do with the food. But Ayurveda talks about sattvic versus rajasic and tamasic foods. Tamasic foods are very dulling and leftovers, and rajasic foods are spicy, stimulated, caffeinated beverages. But sattvic foods are, wholesome foods, whole foods. But they also has to do with how the food was handled. And Ayurveda was well understood that who grew the food, who carried it to the market, who harvested, who cooked with it. All of that creates an impression on the food that affects the ahara rasa, which affects the rasa dhatu, the production of the dhatus, development of ojas, and your longevity, which is called rasayana. Which is why ahara rasa has to do with longevity, which is the ahara rasayana. Vihara rasayana is lifestyle, living in circadian rhythm. Nobel Prize winning science now suggests that we should all be in rhythm with nature, right? Something Ayurveda talked about as Ayurveda 101, a very simple concept. But that lifestyle in rhythm needs to be very sattvic and peaceful and not stressed and not upstream against the grain, pushing ourselves really, really hard. But a lifestyle in sync with the natural cycles, in harmony and sattvic, is a rasayana. It's a technique for longevity. And then achara rasayanas, which are behavioral rasayanas, things that you think about, things that you say, your behavior, interaction with other people, your ability to give love, care for others, has an impact on your longevity according to Ayurveda. And in the article associated with this video, I list all the achara behavioral rasayanas right out of the Ayurvedic textbook Charaka, so you can read those as well. So 3 out of the 4 rasayanas for longevity have to do with something that took place before we put the food in our mouth to create, that actually has an impact on our ahara rasa and the subtle effect on the production of all the dhatus and finally the ojas in the body. right? So now we have science to back that up. We understand that the microbes on the food that you eat are extremely impressionable. If you stress out, yell, scream, the microbes, let's say in a container of yogurt, are going to alter according to that stress. If you put a healthy person next to a social disruptor, that social disruptor will impact and change the microbes inside the healthy person. We know through what's called the gut-brain axis that there is a direct impact between the stress that you're under, the change and alteration of the bugs in your gut, and therefore the moods that you have and the stress response that's incurred. This is well understood. Now, Ayurveda talked about it as the seat of vata, the seat of the nervous system is in your gut and drives everything. Now we know neurotransmitters are produced in your gut. We really do have the science to prove that our gut and our gut bugs do have an impact on what we think and do and say on a regular basis. So it is very, very important. So the studies are in that when you yell and scream or stress out and when you're eating your food, you will alter the microbiome on the food, which then affects the quality of your ahara rasa, that nutrient fluid that affects your rasa dhatu, your lymphatic system, basically, and then the blood and the muscle, fat, bone, nerve, and reproductive tissue, finally your ojas, right? So that's the process. That does take 30 days to complete. So it's a very refined process and all throughout the way affected by stress and lack of sattva, which is why Ayurveda is so big on understanding how we can become more sattvic. I wrote an article about finding out what your emotional body type is, which gives you a questionnaire about your sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic behavior, so you can understand where you are a little more tamasic or aggressive or whatever, and work on bringing that to be more peaceful and kind and joyful. And when you engage in more peaceful, kind, joyful behaviors, we know not only do the good bugs proliferate and bad bugs decrease, we also know that the telomeres on the brain, a measure of longevity, lengthen. We know that you produce more oxytocin, the longevity health hormone, increases and surges in your body. We also know when you give and love and care for others, they measured the impact of that on your genetic code. In one study, they showed that if you gave someone a gift in a hedonistic way, a little bit of a hook that I hope you like it, and you tell me how much you like it and how grateful you are. So I get something in return. Or I give it to you in a eudaimonic way where I don't have any need for any return on that investment. I just love giving it to you. Now, when you gave with a bit of a hook and expectation, it had a negative impact on the genetic code. But when you gave in a positive way, no hooks, just loving the giving process itself, it literally positively changed the genetic code. So your behavioral rasayanas, your achara rasayanas, the way you interact with people is directly linked to longevity. It's directly linked to the stress expression or the negative expression or positive expression of your genetic code, which we now can say is linked to longevity, which Ayurveda talked about thousands of years ago, right? So those are how the emotions can affect your longevity, because it's part of it is described in Ayurveda as rasa, your emotion. So the study of rasa, the study of emotion, is linked to your longevity and is what's called a rasayana, right? So how you prepare the food, love, give, you be joyful around your food, who's growing it, harvested, carrying it to the market, what they're thinking and their impressions, the bugs on their hands are all becoming input into the bugs on your food, and that is then taken into your system. And then that information, that genetic information, particularly if it's mutated from sprays and glyphosate and things like that, is horizontally transferred into the genetic material of you to make sure that you know through the messengers of your microbiology that there is some weird stuff out there. There's wars, there's anger, there's glyphosate, and you better get ready as a host to prepare for all that. Otherwise, the bugs lose their home, and they don't want that. So that's kind of how it works, that these bugs feel everything. So that's why Ayurveda was like, when you sit down and eat, you take time, relax, eat your food, because the ahara rasa is now being created by the taste as well. Rasa also means taste. Taste is linked to emotion. In Ayurveda, the taste of sweet is satisfaction. Taste of salty is desire, and sour is discernment, and pungent is extroversion and competitiveness and drive, and and bitter tastes are somewhat being withdrawn, and astringent tastes are being more self-aware and more composed and calm. And I write a lot about that in the article associated with this video. I go into more detail about all the tastes and how they work on your nervous system and how important they are, right? So taste, in terms of sitting down and relaxing, having all 6 tastes, creates a balanced emotional palate. So all of a sudden, all these like really subtle things in Ayurveda, like the most subtle, or the more subtle it seems, is the more powerful. We know the microbes are really powerful. We can't see them. They're very, very subtle. Ayurveda talked about them thousands of years ago as krimi. They're real and understood, and lifestyles and behavior have been modified to support them, right? But there's also these things called biophotons, which are even more subtle. Photons are particles of light that are emitted and received from your DNA as information-carrying molecules in your body. And these photons are not only information-carrying molecules, but they actually are received and emitted from all of us, from one and another, and they can be coherent or incoherent depending on how out of balance you are. So for example, on one study, they took a rodent who was radiated and they put it next to a healthy rodent, and after 48 hours, the healthy rodent had more radiation damage than the radiated rodent. And they measured how that happened, and they measured it through the incoherent biophotons released from the radiated rodent. So they also did studies, what's called Bocon's theory or philosophy, suggests that these biophotons are changed by impression, so that your impressions can have an alteration of the biophotons which are being emitted and received from your body, communicating within your body, but also with other bodies. Now, this is related to Einstein's theory called spooky action at a distance, where these photons, these same photons, can be changed by impression, by intention, miles and miles apart at the speed of light. Now we have science to sort of back that up. Meditation and yoga have been shown to change the biophotons, make them more coherent. And if you add intention, like prayer and distance healing, things that are known and talked about in Ayurveda, they have an impact as well, and now a mechanism of understanding, because these biophotons can be received and transmitted at great distances, and they're altered by our intention. So once again, our behavior, our achara rasayanas, have an impact on the communication network of your body, which are linked to longevity. So we keep finding that Ayurveda, in terms of its rasayanas, we're talking about things that were very, very subtle. And seems like the more subtle it is, the more powerful it is. Now, the final rasayana, called a Shauta rasayana, is the herbs that you take, those herbs that make you live longer and build anabolic properties up and help not let the body break down as much as they can as we age, and those are also called rasayanas. But all the rasayanas do that. Remember, 3 out of 4 of those happen before you even put the food in your mouth. So that's powerful. But the herbs, the rasayanas, are very powerful as well, and they've done studies with them, like turmeric, for example, has been shown to be a powerful rasayana, because it's been shown to increase stem cells. Stem cells are those rejuvenation cells that support the growth of new cells in your body. So very much related to rasayana therapy, building anabolic behavior or activities in the body, building the body up and not letting it be broken down. Amalaki, another rasayana, stem cell activator. Ashwagandha, another rasayana, stem cell activator. Brahmi, Centella asiatica, increases stem cells. Ghee, highest source of butyric acid on the planet in terms of a food, and butyric acid has been shown to boost stem cell activation as well. So all these herbs in Ayurveda are now showing that they actually increase stem cells, which are rasayana in nature, longevity building in nature. And of course, even some of the Ayurvedic cleanses have been shown to increase stem cell activation as well. Dr. Walter Longo, who wrote a book called The Longevity Diet, is a USC researcher, did research and found that, in fact, that eating a calorie-restricted diet with a very certain amount of fat and khichdi or carbs and proteins, that almost identically mimic the Ayurvedic cleanses using ghee and khichdi. And in our Kaya Kalpa cleanse, we match them exactly, which is our 5-day cleanse. Showed that by doing just the right amount of ghee and the right amount of khichdi, you can amp up the stem cells in your body as well. So in Ayurvedic medicine, the idea of Rasayana is well understood with the Ahara Rasayana, the food that you eat, how you cook it, the intention you have when you eat it, all matters, and it's backed down by science. The lifestyle you live, a stressful lifestyle or a lifestyle in rhythm with the cycles, are Rasayanas for longevity, and they matter. That's now, in fact, circadian medicine is Nobel Prize winning science. The Achara Rasayana, your behavior, your intention, shows impact on your genetic code as well as changing your biophotons. And then, of course, the Ashada Rasayanas, they also, which are the herbs that you take, have been shown to boost stem cell activation. So lots of information here, really backing up with modern science some of these powerful principles of longevity or Rasayana therapy that are really good to understand. And I thought it was fascinating because so much of this happened even before you put anything in your mouth. It wasn't like the pill for Rasayana, there's a longevity pill. Yes, those are there, but so much has to do with the quality of how we live our life, how we eat our food, being in sync with the natural rhythms, and how we treat each other. So thanks for listening. Please check out this article about Rasayana on my website at LifeSpa.com. I'm Dr. John Douillard. Do you like this video? Don't forget to subscribe and share.
This recording is brought to you by LifeSpa, where ancient Ayurvedic wisdom meets modern science. Get access to free health video newsletters by Dr. John at LifeSpa.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.